Do you agree that, it's time that we all wake up and take responsibility, even for our ancestors that did not know any better?
Been waiting patiently to have this kind of conversation. Well, it's another episode, a special episode that I started for Fridays. And I'm calling it Friday Spiritual Talk and Advice. And I have one of my mentors who is a multidimensional hypnotherapist and spiritual advisor as well. And she's a good friend of mine. Please welcome Mary Youngblood.
Hey, Kim, how are you?
I've been going through some experiences and noticing some things. I feel like I'm going through a spiritual surgery. They're like trying to fix and repair and heal certain things. So that's been interesting, needless to say.
Never a dull moment.
Nope. I keep saying that. Never a dull moment. It's always
something's always happening, isn't it?
It does seem that way, honestly. Because I feel like things are constantly changing, even energetically, spiritually, emotionally. It's with everything, the chaos has to come through to clean out and heal so we can evolve and go to the next level. Would you agree on that?
Definitely. And the one thing that is definitely certain is that things are constantly changing. There's nothing in this universe that is ever stagnant or still. Everything is always changing and moving. And as spiritual beings, we're always looking to grow and change and evolve. So absolutely.
And, the one thing that's really been like heavy on my heart is looking at, this beautiful planet that we live on and what's going on in, the flooding, these storms, the heat wave, and these wildfires that are going on in the West. I'm just like, it seems like every year it's getting worse. And my question is, because, everything is created from energy turns into matter. And my question is with the emotions and energy of all this violence and this hatred, this negative energy, is this creating all these other aspects of what's going on our planet? We're all connected. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's no question we're all connected. And definitely the concerns of the planet and what's going on. So I feel that we have a way to look at this, which the way I look at almost everything is from more of a holistic approach. So spirit, mind, and body. And this order doesn't necessarily change just because we're speaking of the environment and maybe not the soul or a human being, because it all comes back to human consciousness. So does the planet and in the science and environmentalists, is there a naturally occurring process within the planet alone and the environment? For sure. But I feel that one of the largest impactful part of this is human beings. And human beings, of course, we activate and intensify what's going on because of the collective energy of what is going on individually with each and every person on this planet. Because everything that we see is an outward example or an outward expression of what's going on in here. In an individual person that is on this planet. So we have this inner situation going on. And over the years, decades, centuries, the human race seems to be so focused on the outer experience. So we so things are kind of backwards. The order isn't coming from within and going without and saying, okay, what am I seeing now? Because what's happening is that if each of us aren't taking charge or time or responsibility for looking at and making these changes within ourselves, within our minds, within our soul, within our hearts, then there's no way that we can take what's really going on in here, which is affecting the whole outer picture and the outer expression of what's going on with the planet. So we can't possibly fix it from an outward standpoint. It's never going to work that way. So what we need to do, and yes, as far as each of us taking responsibility, it's an inward job always. So we have to look at and really take stock of what's going on within us. Where are our old hurts, our wounds, our fears, our hate, our love, our connection, our disconnection, what's going on there. We're so focused outside of ourselves and try to fix problems with that mindset of it being outside. And so it just creates more and more problem instead of actually producing a way to solve the problem. Yeah. So I feel like, because, we look at, and then you magnify this for the whole world. So you can take one person, one county, one city, one state, one country, one continent, but then, and the focuses for a long time have been out, fixing the problem. It's always the outside. It's the effect. And it's like, no, we got to look for what's causing the effect, because if we just try to whack the problem with something that's outside of ourselves, then we're not really fixing the problem. Because see, what we hold inside, the energy and the world that we have inside of ourselves, are our thoughts, our feelings, our fears, our hopes, our love, it's all of that. It's our consciousness, it's our mindset, it's our feelings, it's our emotions. It's our words. It's the way that we feel about ourselves that is projecting that reflection out into the world. And the more we, even for those of us who love the environment, they get caught up in, oh, this is so bad, this is heartbreaking. Go and, yes, it's not pleasant to see sometimes what's happening outside of ourselves, but each of us take a piece of that responsibility, because until we fix this world, that world isn't going to change.
Well, then would it be safe to say, Mary, that, I've been talking about this on my show, these limited beliefs and the mental programmings, which is connected to the emotional energetic tronic, they're all in tangent together. So it's, we got to stop and look inside ourselves. And what if those beliefs and programmings are no longer serving, they're just repeating itself, and that's part of the root of the problem?
Definitely. That's what, and taking responsibility and finding out, where are those programs? Where are my old, was that old consciousness and the old thought? A lot of people were not, so many of us, there's so much that we're not even aware of. So consciously, you've got a whole bunch of human beings running around that aren't even consciously aware of what's going on behind the scenes within themselves. So it does take, it definitely takes some effort. It takes some, you gotta do the work. You gotta start having things, as things come to your awareness, or saying, okay, I'm not even consciously aware that there could be things going on inside of me that are affecting not only my personal life, but the planet as a whole. So then we start taking attention and being like, oh, wow, okay, let's go investigate what could be there, But as individuals, it's up to us as individuals to make the effort. It's up to us to put in the work, which is going to, and does, and can, for anybody. We are in an extraordinary time where there's so much of this isn't taboo anymore. There's coaching, there's spiritual. You go on the internet and you can see all these, people's websites are using language like universal truths and love and balance, and so the consciousness is definitely shifting. We're in a day and a time where this isn't These aren't things that aren't being used. These aren't words. There's so many of these spiritual or new age words, if you will, that are becoming more common to the common folk. So I feel that being able to, take responsibility and dive in and saying, well, what is this? What does this look like? What does this mean? Well, not only by doing these kind of things and going, doing any kind of inner work, whether it's through mind or body. So when we say mind, what are we talking about? Well, definitely the conscious mind has to change. We got to get rid of the old programming and the old beliefs and the wounds and the hurts and resentments and all that kind of stuff. How do we do that? Some of it is through conscious efforts. A big portion of it is very unconscious. We're running on these programs, these energies, these thoughts, process, all this stuff is unconscious. So, again, it's finding a starting point as a person. Where do I start? Well, by asking the question is a great place to start. Staying open to the answers that come. We hear these things, synchronicities and no coincidence and stuff. As soon as, I'll guarantee this is the soul and the spiritual side of all of this, is that once you ask the question, the answer has to come. It's automatic. It will come. It'll come, whether it's in a book, the next person you talk to, a thought inside your head, but it's there. So the first thing I'd say, start asking the questions and allow those answers to come, and more will continuously be revealed. Going back even in history, all stuff that maybe if we were to approach different, maybe more of a political or great businesses, maybe they think some of this is like woo-woo talk, but no, going back in history, these some of the thinking and the mindset, even behind some of our great leaders hundreds of years ago or 100 years ago or a little or more, these were topics that were coming up, or these were lifestyle ideas that people were fascinated by, and people didn't really question. They certainly weren't, oh, well, that's woo-woo stuff. No, this isn't all just always woo-woo stuff, just because we're talking about topics and using words that for a long time people were afraid of using and shutting down, because we work with just the outer experiences and the institutions and stuff like that.
Well, and back in history, in the religion history, if you even thought outside the box and thought differently, you were either a witch, you were, the total opposite. And there was like violent things that happened because of, an individual thinking outside the box and even questioning religion. So it's like, what if those people were actually speaking truth and trying to help enlighten others? However, they got persecuted, they got tortured, they even got murdered for that. Mm-hmm. So I think that goes back, going back in time, not being able to think outside the box. And now it's time to wake up, and the truth is inside us.
It is.
And when you mentioned earlier, when you asked, that's how my journey went. I started really heartfelt, authentic questions of, why am I here? Is there more to life than this? And what's my purpose being here? That's how my journey started.
Exactly.
And it's been a wild ride.
To say the least. It has definitely been a wild ride, but what a journey, I guess as a natural born explorer, that's my personality, that's my soul, wanting to adventure and explore. So to me, the exploration process, it's never been really difficult for me, and I've never been afraid of exploring, and I'll say that first, like you said, it started with myself, and I don't think I don't recall, at least at this moment, ever being afraid of looking at or investigating or taking a great adventure with it. like you said, asking the questions. Where is this? What's happening? There's more. Is there more to life than this? Is there more than that? Than to me than even what I noticed. So all those things are a great inner adventure. And then once you get that, you can go on an outer adventure with it and find others that are, taking that inward journey and finding out what's going on. Still, again, the most important thing is finding out about yourself. Who wouldn't want to know who they really are? On so many levels, and we do this, once we do it and we get to know ourselves, then it becomes just an everyday process of, it becomes just a part, a way of living, where you're constantly becoming self-aware and you're asking more questions because we continue to grow and change.
Right.
Part of involvement.
And you mentioned something just a minute ago, and it changes the one thing that comes to mind is, I came across this quote: humanity was not supposed to exist like this.
Yes.
And I question, I'm like, well, how is humanity supposed to exist then? Where's the, what's truly going on, why things are the way they are, and how can we change that so humanity can exist on this beautiful, wonderful, amazing planet that we live on. And I'm, as an observer, not to be judgmental, but observing, I'm like, all this chaos, there's a connection to this of why this is happening. And I'm just like the investigator researcher trying to connect the dots. So I can like, because I feel innately, maybe that's the correct word, that we're all here to make a difference and an impact for the better. And that's the journey of discovering it. Because spirituality is not inherited, it's discovered. Would you agree?
Say that part again. I'm sorry.
Spirituality is not inherited, it's discovered. And we've been under a false identity of who we are. And with everything going on, I'm looking around like there's a connection here. And how do we fix this to where humanity can exist on this beautiful, wonderful, amazing planet? Like all of us get along. Like I can imagine, oh my God, there's more peace, there's more love. Everyone's getting along. Everyone's nice to one another. And it's like a beautiful vision that I really try hard to hold on and put that love into that vision, because everything starts with the imagination and the thought. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, definitely, with the imagination and the thoughts, and also definitely with that, and then also with with what's going on within us, again, our energy, but yeah, absolutely.
I'm curious, what does, let's get the spirit guides in and start asking for and seeking some possible the truth for sure, but insight on what's going on and how we can make that step for the better. What do they say about with what's going on?
Well, first, let me go back and comment on that. The love, the self-love, just more joy, more love, is definitely going to kind of put us where you said something and I just forgot what it was a second ago. You said something and it was, anyways, okay, I lost that train of thought. It was something that you said, and I was going to comment on it with what was coming through. So maybe that will come.
Well,
back.
Bring it back, spirit guides. Hello, bring it back. Let her.
Well, it'll flow. It'll come when it comes.
Right, but I am curious of being human and Doctor, I'm getting hit on something. Dr. Joe Dispenza says our reality is based on our mindset and our beliefs.
Yes.
So I'm thinking when I hear that, I'm like, well, I have to change my mindset and my beliefs to create the reality that I want and seek.
Right. So for instance, let's look at some of these. Let's look at some of the situations going on with the planet. Let's start. Okay, we got fires raging out of control. They have been. Even going back to earlier this year, we had them in Colorado. I think Washington. I'm not sure what else states, but California's always been a hot spot for fires. They're always getting slammed with these fires burning, and then we've had a lot of flooding. So we've got the waters, we've got the fires. So we've got these elements, right? And these elements are being supercharged. How are they being supercharged? There's two aspects. We're going to look at two different parts that I feel are really important. And all of this is, so everything that when I'm talking, that most of the stuff, some of it's maybe based on my personal experiences, but a lot of it is exactly the information that's coming through me. So, this is pure spiritual information, whether it's, everything that comes through me is either spirit guides, intelligent groups, bringing the information to me. But let's look at some of that. So we have these elements, what we got, fire, water, earth, and air. So those are just the 4 elements that we know. Okay. So we got fires that are raging and they're kind of turning and taking over. So then we would look to ourselves. Let's say if we were going to take a personal inventory and say, what is going on with me that could possibly be affecting or contributing to the fires? Okay, well then we had to look and say, well, what's on fire within me? What's going on? What is burning out of control? What is ready to be totally brought to ash so that something new can come out of it? So we look at that and we see where's the pain body there? Is there something? Is it more of a positive? Is it that we have blocked off a part of ourselves in that flow of burning passion or burning love or desire? For communication and stuff like that. So we got to look at, it's one of two things, but it's always something within. So how can I change blazing fires going on around the world? Well, I got to see where it's either blocked or blazing in the wrong way within inside of me. Okay. So, and then of course that will always go out collectively too, and even past, because you bring up programming. And so we could look at generationally or, our parents, their parents, and other influences, aunts, uncles, whatever relatives are going on. Okay, was there something off in there? Was there a fire that was needing to burn that was not burning? Was there something that needed to just go to ash? Because that ash provides beautiful grounds for new growth to happen. So it's very enriching. So you got this awesome way of looking at all of it. And then we could also say, well then, okay, if that element of fire is giving us a message to, again, the message would be externally, if we were to take it from an external point of view, then we still bring it to inside and say, what is it trying to show me? It's teaching me something. What is it? What is going on inside of me that I'm not wanting to look at or change, or that I'm not even aware of, but I need to be aware. So it's bringing to my attention that there's something off balance there with that element, and so then we have the opportunity to fix it. Anything that we do in an individual, if we can spark that in somebody else, but we need to, to have us all having a thought about something together would be that we all start doing this, and the majority of us start thinking and living and feeling this way. It shifts all of the energy. Everything is connected, and you said that at the beginning of the show. Everything is connected, and we are connected to everything. So there's nothing that is happening anywhere that we are not a part of or separate from. See? So, I mean, it can get kind of deep, but I know you're following, and I'm sure some of the listeners will be following along. Again, this is what comes to me to share. And you could say be the same thing with water. And there's, okay, with the water element, and we could break it down into all these different pieces, but it still comes back to I'm a part of it, creating it externally, or externally it is also So it's kind of win-win, because externally it's also, if I'm not seeing it within myself and I'm seeing it outside of myself, then that is also a teacher. It's showing me something. There's something that I'm missing, seeing, or need to know within myself that can change, or there's something within myself that I'm aware of and then I need to change, so that the outer experience can also be different. We've gotten so distant, so we could use that with water. We could use that with fire, air, earth. As far as Earth's concerned, we've gotten so many of us. I'll say there's a lot of us that are coming to consciousness, awakening. And so that's really good, to put a very nice positive spin. There's probably more people that have at least been introduced to the idea or the language, whether people understand really what's going on. Maybe it's because it's trendy now to be doing these kinds of things and having coaches and stuff. So fine, let it be trendy. If it gets people to, get hooked on a positive spin, or hooked on a word, a topic, a theme, where that gets them questioning, then that's really good. And I feel like there are a bunch of us. But I also feel that the disconnect from this planet, we're all running around. I mean, maybe not all of us, but there's a lot of us still running around like chicken with our heads cut off. And we think that's normal. It's not. It's not normal, and it's not healthy, but some of us are doing it anyways. And, that's okay, I suppose, but not if we're looking to change those very things, then we have to become aware of this. But the disconnect between Earth, okay, just that element alone, our humanness, and the disconnect from this planet is a big part of it as well. That energy is being recognized, that energy is being absorbed, and has been being absorbed through consciousness between ourselves and the planet. And that might be higher, and that might be something that we're really not aware of unless we're really connected spiritually or consciously, that higher super consciousness. But we look at the disconnect between ourselves and the planet, and that's a huge part. If we were to disconnect ourselves within any kind of relationship, we start to see things falling apart. We start to see what that looks like as things separate. Imagine a mountain or a rock separating, like when we have earthquakes. That separation is things are happening. So we're literally separating. We've got the separation, not only from ourselves and each other, but with this planet as a whole. And that also has a huge impact and huge effect. And we have our animal kingdom, our sea life, also another great disconnection. But the problem is, or the uncomfortability, and I don't know that most people maybe look at it this way, is that when we're disconnected, and that gap keeps going further. There's so much that we get without even being aware of it, by allowing ourselves to have connection to this planet and the living things and animals and stuff that are connected to this planet as well. We already know, because of the Schumann resonance, and that goes more into now we're going a little bit more into the explanation of sound healing and stuff like that, what we know about these frequencies. When they were sending astronauts out into space, and they were finding all these odd reactions. This was, when they were first starting to do this, what was lost was there's a pulse within this planet, within this Earth, that we need. And what was happening is they were coming down with all these strange symptoms. And when they found out that it was because of the lack of this pulse, and they were able to emulate that, those symptoms ended. That stopped. So there's, that's why when people say, go take a walk in the nature, take your shoes off, go walk barefooted. There's literally, when we get so separate, it is a vital, this is science. This is not just spirituality. This is science, that when we start to lose that disconnection, we start to become unhealthy, and different elements can start occurring. So, and especially true for people who live in really large cities where there's not a lot of that. We've got buildings, we've got internets, we've got towers, we've got airports. We've got all these systems running, which break up that frequency of the Earth's natural tone. So it's very interesting. But I feel that our lack of connection to our planet, our lack of connection to our environment. Again, this is everyday personal. We'd have to become aware and really, really make an effort to stop that. The oceans, the ocean life, there's that element of water, and we have our dolphins, we have our, all these, this whole system of living that's in the water. And it's so powerful, and there's so much by having that connection. There's so much that we bring with us, that we learn that. And again, you don't even have to be consciously aware of this. If you're near a body of water, go sit by that water, and you're going to, whether you are aware of it or not, changes are happening to you and to that water system and to all the living entities and, life that takes up that body of water. So, it's really, really, it's cool, but, we gotta make sure that we gotta have the mindset of reconnecting, and we can do that with any of the elements. The best way to do it, I still feel, is to connect with self. But if you're not at that point, then connect with the planet. Definitely connect with your environment, with your surroundings.
I think once you connect with the planet and whatnot, things just shift. The energy shifts. And this planet is, there was something that I heard, and I'm trying to read, something about mankind is destroying mankind and this planet if we keep up down this path.
Right. But we have the power to change our minds.
Yes. And mine is greed, narcissism, greed, control, and power. Using the power for controlling, manipulating, and greed has been going on way too long.
And that's
history shows it.
Yeah.
So that has to shift and change too. But here's the funny part. It's not so funny, but it's funny to me. It's how come when there's a catastrophe, everyone collectively, joins together, unites to help one another, but they don't do it on a daily basis.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's a really good point. On a daily basis, man is always living. Most humans are living outside of themselves. So that's the first thing. Until human beings stop living outside of themselves, then that's going to, continue to be passed down. But then I also think that it comes back to, the human instinct isn't survival of the fittest. That's maybe the second human instinct. The first real instinct we have is unconditional love. And that's why in emergency situations, you'll hear that man that just pulled off the side of the road, and you ask him, why'd you dive into that pond at night? I saw the car crash and I wanted to go save the life. The real human nature is unconditional love. You don't even think about it. Your natural response is to save, is to help, is to do something about it. And I think when something really big happens, the first thing we do is to come together. And then the outward, humans living outside of themselves then comes in. Then it starts to break apart, because now we have all the humanness that's disconnected from love. All those things start coming back in, and they, and that kind of pulls it apart and breaks it down into all kinds of weird and funky unhealthiness. But it doesn't have to be that way, but that's why we see those exactly what you were talking about. And because our first real instinct is unconditional love. That's our first nature. It's our only nature, actually. Everything else is a spin-off off of that, whether we're outside of ourselves or come from a place from within. Anytime we come from a place outside of ourselves, we're done. We're doomed.
Well, and the thing is, this has been taught. It's a program, even through our parents, even through religion, conditional love instead of unconditional love. And, speaking, in the spiritual realm of things, in the spiritual realm, there is unconditional love, and it doesn't matter what sex, gender, race or color you are. You're just a divine being.
When we step into real love, everything else disappears. When you're in that place of love, when you're coming from unconditional love, you're not all that stuff disappears. The mind stops perceiving a body. The mind stops perceiving ugly, fat, rich, poor, broken, whole. All of that goes away. So when you're standing in unconditional love, talking to someone, everything else disappears, because what we're doing is soul communication now. This is spirit communication. So we're communicating from our original language, which is love.
Pure love that's deep within us. It's already in us. We don't have to look outwards. It's already in us. We just got to go inward, connect, or I should say reconnect.
Remember who and
what
remember. We are. Remembering who and what we are first. You can't go wrong. It's a win-win. And this whole life thing, it's a win-win too. If we want to really, really, stretch people's minds, yeah, it's a win-win. It's a fixed game. At the end of it all, we all return to perfect bliss. So, all of this stuff, it's cool, and we're supposed to be having these conversations, and we're supposed to be writing these books and sharing and all this kind of stuff. But what's really cool is that you can't go wrong. You can't really go wrong. Even all this is cool because it does wake up within ourselves. And what I love about sharing and what we're doing right now is because just like, that the whole thing, the more what you give, you receive. Well, what you want to know more of, you teach it, you share it. What you want anchored deep inside, the more you share, and that anchors it even deeper within ourselves. So again, win-win.
Yeah, it's just amazing to me. Yeah, the human there. I am a human being, but I'm also a spiritual being, sexual being inside this human being, and I happen to be a female redhead. So I was like, okay, I'm in this body, and you know what? I'm going to not take advantage in a negative way, but I'm going to take advantage of being in this human being and make a life and, change my reality so I can be the best version of myself and start living my best life now. And as a coach, that's what practicing what I'm teaching.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a process. It doesn't happen overnight. That's for damn sure. It's not like going to a McDonald's drive-thru and here, bam, there you go. It doesn't. It takes practice and constantly being aware of my thoughts and my feeling. And I'm always listening to Dr. Wayne Dyer and Dr. Joe Dispenza. And
fabulous. Two absolutely fantastic men that really understand and really have it going on.
Oh yeah. And Dr. Wayne says, change your feeling changes your destiny.
That's right.
Change the way you feel. It's not just our thoughts, it's what we're feeling, because there's a connection. And Dr. Joe says the thought is the language to the mind, but the feeling is the language to the body.
Yes, exactly.
So I feel that if we all start paying attention, and there's so much, the news and the media and everything, I limit myself on how much I watch in the news. It's just, it can get, because what you're perceiving, what you're seeing and hearing, you're perceiving, and then you get affected by that because that is a negative energy. And I've gotten to the point now where I'm observing what's going on, but I limit myself on how much I take in. Be aware, be informed. And right now I've been shifting to reading instead of watching. I don't
read. I read constantly. Yeah. that's been coming up for me too. I mean, I've always been a reader. I enjoy reading and I enjoy writing. Those are two things that I've always done and will probably always do. But definitely it's been, definitely been coming in even stronger, I've noticed. And we go back to, like with the news and media and stuff like that. And absolutely, we got to be aware of that kind of stuff too, because you got to, we remembering, these institutions, I'll call it, that's kind of in my overall word for, it can be the schools, the media, the hospitals, the pharmaceutical, the government, but whatever. These are all institutions, okay, created obviously by the insanity or turned insane by mankind or our thinking. But it's kind of like this, we got these institutions that, again, that are, maybe when some of these things were created, it was created with a different mindset. Some of these things were created a very long time ago. And at that time, the heart, the integrity, the mindset presented and was able to create some of these institutions that were established to work accordingly. But what happened is the hearts and the minds behind it changed. So the sicker, the more unhealthy humans and their thinking and living and feeling became, so did the distortion of these institutions. So we have these institutions that need to be completely rehabilitated. And we have humans that need to be retrained, and I took that from Cesar Millan, the dog whisperer, when he says, I rehabilitate dogs and I train humans. That's exactly what we need to do. Where's Caesar? That's what we need to do to ourselves. We need to rehabilitate or restructure these institutions from a mindset that is newly trained, and Einstein kind of, he there's so many people in the past, so many great people, that also had taught us these things,
Tesla, hello.
And that's, if there's a problem, you step outside of that, and scientists do this, and it's like, step outside of that mindset. It's, it's not changing the outer, it's the inner. Well, change the mind to fix the problem. You can't fix you know what I mean? So again, it's that we've been conditioned to live outside of ourselves and try to fix things outside. Everything's from an outside perspective, and that's kind of the way that is the way that we've been doing things, is trying to fix something, fix the outer with the outer, and it's not going to happen. That's not
like change matter with matter, and it doesn't work that way.
That's right. That's exactly right. No, it's all an energy. We already know how all that works. Everything in this universe is vibrating, and it's moving. What specific frequency, and that goes back to us, and you were talking about our own personal energy, and it's like, again, the more we dive into ourselves and figure out, even humanly with this body, of course, we want to have the best experiences while we're here. I think it's a glorious opportunity. What a ride, we get to come here and be human, and we get to have this whole experience. We there's a part of us that always knows who and what we are spiritually from a soul perspective. Now, not many of us remember that, and it shows, because through our insanity and unhealthiness as a whole, to some degree. And but yes, absolutely, but then, so we're spirit, we're mind, but we're body. How awesome is that? To me, that's so awesome. And within that body, we have this energy that's constantly running. So even if we've overcome and worked on our worries, some of our fears and old hurts and wounds, that changes, because we're going to be thinking, where our energy, our inner little hum, kind of like a fan, or when you're running a car, there's all these different vibrations going on. Well, it's the same with us, layer behind layer. So we look for, as we grow and learn more about ourselves, we look for those subtle hints, those subtle vibrations. So even if our main ones are we've picked them up and we've really done the work, and so our outer vibration is really humming and buzzing really well for ourselves. It's got this new harmonics going on. But then but then we need to break it down to the subtler ones, to where here's a strong word for you, to we're so acutely aware of ourselves, and every vibration, everything that is going on inside of us, those thoughts, those feelings, those emotions, everything's pinging at a different frequency. So we go deeper and deeper to make sure that those energies that are moving around us, that everything is starting to vibrate at those higher, more healthy frequencies, because all of that is being put out, and all of it does count and does matter, as we know.
That's well put. I love it.
Thanks. Not me. Some of it's me, but some of it's just what comes through me. Yeah, but and some of it's just for some of this stuff. It is consciously awareness because of my own personal journey and my own desire to know more. How am I going to know more about you if I don't know it about myself first? How am I going to know more about this planet, the environment? How am I going to know about anything going on if I don't first know about myself? So it all starts first, it starts with one.
Yeah. And then, one, I wouldn't want to say you could probably say rediscovering yourself.
Remember.
But falling in love with yourself. Get to know yourself.
That's a huge one.
Yeah. And it's like, how can you love somebody else if you've never experienced love, because of the mindset and our upbringing of how we're taught to be loved. And then how can you help others when you're in need of help yourself?
Exactly.
And then how can we help our planet if we're not helping ourselves?
That's exactly
it starts with you first, work on you, and then it will expand to other things. And it's so fascinating to me because I am actually seeing, very little, significant things that are like, wow, okay, I see what's happening here. This is okay. It's a little bit, just baby steps I'm seeing, for the better. And I'm like, wow, we got some work to do. And that's why I started this podcast to, get it going and just keep the momentum going and sharing, what I've learned, getting other experts, getting people like you on the show to help expand, the audience's mind to help think and just even ask a question.
Mm-hmm.
Something will be said on here that someone's going to be like, you know what? That's a good point. Oh, wow. I never thought of it that way. And now I'm having some, guests and people that have seen and commented or emailed me and contacted me like, wow, I never thought of it that way. That's interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, that's all I want you guys to think differently.
Right.
Insanity is you keep doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. Well, that's been going on for eons. We need to change.
Exactly. And you had, absolutely. And you had talked about on our list of questions or things that we might want to talk about, something that had come up. And one of your questions was, what about, the hurts of others? What about the anger, the hatred, the violence and stuff like that? And again, it's very closely related to the same thing that we've been talking about with the environment, and just getting rid of our, looking at, becoming aware and working on. And we do are these things, our own, anything we see outside of ourselves. Again, anything outside of ourselves, it starts with us, with one, and what's going outside of ourselves. Because I feel like, we got to look at our own hates, our own prejudice, our own hurts, our own heartache, our own grief. If we're not willing to address that, then don't even bother trying to fix the world or anything outside yourself, because it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna work. So we address these within ourselves too, and take it as far as you want. This life, as far as I'm concerned, as long as I'm breathing and playing this human role, there's always going to be plenty to look at, heal, work on, and discover. Because life goes on. Relationships happen, communication happens, energy happens, things are always happening. So, we just stay very aware, we stay alert, we stay aware of ourselves first, and that connection to God, or, your idea of spirit, I have no problem using the word God to describe that energy, that ultimate being, that creative life force that we're connected to. So, so we discover these things through our spiritual sense or our spiritual connection to that power, to God. So when we're doing that, that's what really starts to heal ourselves. That's what gives us it's that energy, it's that being, it's that presence. Then so healthy looks like God. That's our ultimate oneness, right? That's the ultimate, there's this presence, this intelligence, that the supernatural, whatever you want to call it, but there's this force that we're connected to. That's where we need to begin from. And then self, because it has to come. We connect back to that source. Then we come to self, and that starts working for us and starts evolving and remembering who we are. Then others. If the mindset, which is usually backwards, humans, a lot of us, we can see it's no secret, it's backwards. It's like anything outside of ourselves, it's others. Self might get thrown in there once in a while, and possibly, I don't know, somewhere self and God would probably have taken the really, really far back burner. But for some of us, but that's the reversed order. The proper order would be God, self, and then others.
Well, that's
healthy.
Right. And you know what? Now that's a good perspective and concept to consider.
Yeah.
The way you said it that way. And, my just one last thing. What do the spirit guides like to share with us, as we wrap things up? Whoa. I'm like, I know you're thinking something, because when I get hit, I'm like, well, that's what has to be said.
Well, as soon as you ask the question, the information starts, comes through me, and you're getting hit just through my consciousness coming through. It's going back to remembering who and what we are. If we can remember who and what we are, then most of our problems will be solved. Seemingly problems, because again, there are no problems.
Right.
If we take it all the way back, there's no, it says it in the Course in Miracles, there is no storm. We're kind of making it all up, but we got to break it down to, but it seems very real, and we're living these lives, and things are happening, and we're experiencing this reality that seems so very, very real. And we can't, we don't want to do more damage or hurt people by, saying, by not validating that this life stuff seems very, very real. Again, why we should go look to self, and why we should go in for contemplation, why we need to quiet that outer world. And this is where when people get into meditation and stuff like that, it's because if we don't take time to quiet that outer world and go within, that's where the disconnect starts to happen.
And we've been disconnected for so long. And, and I keep sharing with people, Mary, is that, look, if you don't like this reality, hello.
Because even that,
you got to think, okay, I don't like this reality, but what can I do to change that reality? What can I do first through me?
Exactly.
It's change the way I think, the way I feel, and what I do.
Absolutely, because if we took that thought for a second of what you just said, and we take it inward, okay, because that's the best place to go, and you realize the whole world, the universes, all of that. So all of it is, it's all really here, okay. The whole universe resides within you, within me, within us. So it would make sense. Why would I go outside of myself to try to look at, see, or fix any of it? what's really happening and going on is always within, and not just within the human nature. No, we're talking about going deeper. What's really within us? Within us is what has been with us since the beginning of time. So everything resides there. So the whole universe. There was a channeling, a message I got. I don't remember when, but it says, it's in one of my notebooks, but it said something. I'm gonna have to find it. It was something about one man can change the entire universe if he can love himself. And it's like, wow, it was so powerful. And I think the wordings were different, as I go through my notebooks of messages and channelings, but it was like, yeah, so one man can change the entire universe if he can love himself first. And it's like, wow, okay. So that was pretty powerful too.
Yeah, because what you think in your heart, so be it, and we got to change the heart.
Right.
The heart of the matter.
That's right. The heart of the matter. Exactly. That's perfect.
Wow. This has been great. I love having these kind of talks with you. And I look forward to every Friday having these topics. And I'm just going to remind the audience, that has joined and that are watching this on Fridays, is we actually pre-record it every Thursday to upload it on Friday, but I'm going to post on Wednesday. If anybody is seeking advice or has questions on, how to change their mind, what's going deep within their conscience that they're not aware of, that they want to figure out in order to move forward and heal from. So that's how I do this for Friday Spiritual Talk and Advice. It's Wednesday. I'll post something on Facebook, Instagram for you guys to ask your questions. What do you want to, what topics would you like us to tap in the spirit side of things?
Oh yeah, because that's when it gets really exciting. I love it. Give us some topics. Ask us some questions.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Here. Yes, because it is fun and it's stimulating, and that in itself creates such an energy. When we're coming together and we're talking, and people are having questions or that they want answered, or topics they really want to hear, so we can really dive in and go deep, and it's fun. Who doesn't, we'll learn something, we'll shift the energy, we shift the consciousness, and we can have a really good time doing it at the same time.
You and me too, both. I am in agreement with you. And Mary, thank you so much for joining this. I love it.
I love it. I have a blast. I love sharing. I love, being the channel for information to come through. What we're doing now, it's funny because as we're doing this now, I just see this tide, this ripple of energy that we've created. I can see the motion of what we're creating.
I feel it.
Yes, exactly. So it's cool. It's fun. It's exciting. And, and every time we raise the consciousness, we raise our own energy by having fun and opening up these awesome ideas and topics, that's shifting. You talk about shifting consciousness and helping the planet and the environment. Well, this is part of it. This is absolutely. Yeah.
And I look forward to what else takes place during these little get-togethers that we're having and channeling and whatnot. So I'm curious. I'm the curious type.
Yeah.
What is it gonna, especially if it's a win-win.
Oh my God, exactly. This is super cool.
Love it.
See next week and what we decide to talk on. Maybe we'll have some people, like you said, email or contact you with questions or ideas or things that they would like to, hear more about. And
they can contact you too. So I'll leave all the information where to get a hold of us, and we're just gonna have fun. Be curious. Be
Mm-hmm.
adventurous. Go on this wild ride and waking the consciousness up.
Exactly. It's so funny when you say that, or when you say like that, we're going to go on this wild ride. And I perceive when you say that word, I see myself as one of those wildfires just charging through.
I'm on this huge tidal wave.
Yeah.
Because I love the water.
Yeah. Fire and water. Fire and water. That's perfect. Love it. All the beautiful elements.
See, I got the water in the background of my screen. I love the water. I love the ocean.
I love it. Same. Water.
It's just it's so therapeutic.
Fire.
It's
amazing.
It is.
I just think it's
I'm right there with you.
I'm always, yes. And it's cool because it's like I always want to be by the water, and I always want to be close to the sun. So I want that heat, I want that sunshine, I want that fire, and I want the water.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I love the earth and I love the air. I love all of it, but definitely those two seem to be like at the forefront of. I'm just like, living in Florida, in South Florida. I've never minded the heat. The dog days of August and stuff. The humid. It doesn't bother me. Or some people, it really bothers them, and they can give them this negative effect. Or it's so hot, I can't breathe, the humidity, and I get it. I feel that same way when I go to a place that's cold. I can find happiness and joy in anything I'm doing, and I often do. And I don't let the elements take total control over. Definitely don't let any of that take control over my attitude or my outlook. But I will say this. If I have a preference, if I'm going to have a little bit of an attitude, it's going to be when I'm cold. No, I don't want to be cold. I don't want to be brisk. I want to be warm. So no chance I reside in the Sunshine State.
Wait, hold on a second. I love the heat too, and it's the experience of getting kissed by the sun, enjoying the water. But I also like being in the mountains, and I don't know about living in the snow, but visiting it, and it's just that cold is the frisk, and it does something to the circulation and whatnot. So it's very therapeutic. Just saying. But then you can go get warmed up underneath the covers with a hot body next to you. Hello.
And you are right. Like anytime I go to the mountains, I mean, whether it's more of the East Coast or Midwest, you got, those aren't the spectaculars we see out west, but it doesn't matter, like those babbling brooks and going to the Smoky Mountains or the Blue Ridge, or then you go out west and you got the Rockies and you got, it's beautiful. And when I'm out there, when I'm out of the Sunshine State, I take it in, and I don't mind. Like you said, could I live every day of my life, scraping ice off my windshields and shoveling snow? Absolutely not. I couldn't either. I have no desire to do that. I don't. But I so love and enjoy all parts of this planet, nature, that you can give me the mountains and water and ocean. I love all of it. And when I go out west and to these colder environments, the snow it's just spectacular and beautiful.
And I love having snowball fights with my kids
and try to walk the dogs in it and do all the earth, human stuff in it. No, I would rather do that in the heat. In the warm, where I can wear the least amount of clothes and no shoes as possible. That's
right. The snowball fights, making angels in the snow and making a snowman. That's the fun. That's the joy of being in the snow for me. That's why I like to visit it. I don't want to live in it. I just want to visit it. It's like my inner child coming out. Snowball fight.
Oh, you can put me in any environment. The first thing I'm going to do is play. In fact, there's so many times that I'm like, I'll go, God, if I were to pick consciously the lifestyle I'd want, I would be to come to have this life set up where all I had to do was play. Just
Right?
play.
I think we just lost that
Play
playful
and
side.
adventure. I just want to play. Yeah, play. Adventure. Go
Well,
off
we're gonna
to faraway places.
maybe our next topic is about playing, being childlike, and healing from childhood traumas, that we could come back to that, to connecting with our inner child, so we could play more.
Well,
I
there's
think that's what we should be talking about next.
I think that would be fabulous, because that really gets the energy up there. That really gets people in a very fun and joyous. Because you look at it, I mean, yeah, we can look at the childlike wonder. The playfulness is super important. I mean, that's what keeps us so alive and vibrant. When people say, you want to tap into the fountain of youth, you better become playful and get ready to have fun, because if you want the fountain of youth, you got to get back to that self. You got to have fun. Vulnerability. You got to you let yourself be vulnerable, just like a child would. Children don't care. Mm-hmm. Children do not. Their whole world exists in this moment, and their imaginations are at an all-time peak until we kind of, grow out of that through, I guess, development. But no, that's it to me. I mean, staying happy, and I gotta say this is kind of cool. This is kind of cool, a cool, interesting thing about myself that I've discovered over the years. For years, I'm generally, overall, by nature, to my core, I'm a happy person. It's just been, maybe it's a gift, maybe it's just something that came very easy for me throughout my life. But that is the basis. And I can remember there would be times in my life where people that, you can't always be that happy, right? Like, aren't you? And it's not that things don't come up, and I haven't had my share of grief or heartaches or things going on, because I have, but there's this foundation, there's this nice foundation. The truth is, I am. I am mostly.
I know. I've known you for several years.
It's a constant. It's just part of who I am. So for me, that's never been. That's always come fairly easy, because even when things are going on, that aren't, and I don't always, when I have that same human experience of things happening that aren't, but that it never really shakes that core joy of living, or life that I have. And I think the topic of playfulness and coming back to that childlike mindset and emotion, having that emotional body, going back to and aligning with the mindset and that deep emotional body of that childlike wonder and that playfulness is huge for living and being healthy and happy.
Well, yeah, because you create your own happiness, and happy is an emotion and feeling of how you feel inside. And for me, I think, going back, through my experience and everything, I think the true core of my whole being is love.
It is. Absolutely. Absolutely.
There's something about, and granted, I've been hurt. I'm not going to say, oh, my heart's been broken. No, my heart's been hurt. My heart was never broken. I think that language, there are power in our words, but my heart got hurt, through an experience of loving somebody and being mistreated and abused and whatnot. But deep down, I have this love that I can't help sharing and giving.
That's right. Yep, exactly.
It's like deep within.
Cool, because when it's that part of you that is really intact, there's no outer experience that can really break that foundation. And that's exactly what you have, and that's what I have. There's this foundation of these aspects, the love and the joy, and what comes kind of right in between those is this awesome compassion. Compassion for everything, and I think that energy in between the two is really amazing and very powerful.
It is, and it just gave me a different perspective on looking how, because it's like I am God in this female form, and I'm connected to the life force energy of this God. And when I connected to that, I've always had this.
Yes.
You know, and I have like conversations with God, like the
I
book.
love it. Oh,
I've read that book 4 times, but I actually like have conversations like as if
yes.
I go from, because I'm the female aspect, he's
Yes.
the male aspect of the energy, you know, communicating. And I'm like, so all this time, I was like, wow. So all this time you're like in me, I'm you, you're me, but I'm in the female version, and you're just having an experience with me and you really don't care. Like, okay. Like, and then it's like, wow. When I started understanding about the aspects of love, he's like, you are pure love,
That's
Kimberly.
it.
You have the biggest heart,
Right.
you know, that cares deeply. And when you get hurt, you hurt deeply, but you get back up and you manage to heal yourself. You manage to keep going. But you just have this pure love essence of you. And when you go places and you meet people, children, animals, they know, they feel, they sense that connection. They want to connect with that pure love essence of who you are.
Absolutely. You know, and it's really cool because, you know, love is the way we are. Love, true love or divine love, that unconditional, that whole love, the essence of who we are, that foundation. Love's for the sake of loving, and that was in Conversations with God, and probably a million other books, I don't know, but I know it was in one of the Conversations with God books when it talks about love simply loves for the sake of loving, which means that eliminates the mindset of any kind of judgment. As soon as we throw any kind of an intellectual judgment or conscious judgment in there, it changes the roots of love. Loves for the sake of loving. And it's so cool because then when people like ourselves come along and there's that component between joy, that core of joy and love is that compassion. And I feel that from that original aspect is where we can love for the sake of loving. Let me tell you, when I get, and I know this is the same for you too, when I get clients, not just clients, when I get clients, but also anybody that enters my life, whether it's brief encounter through the grocery store or, you know, long term or whatever it is, there's that vision, there's what I see. Again, you know, everything else disappears, and you no longer see the problems, the hurts, the unhealthiness, the things that they're coming to hopefully get insights or heal within themselves. So all that's there, but all of that kind of goes away. And you think, I find myself working with individuals that are a little bit more that would be very difficult for people to work with, or maybe difficult for people who don't operate from that unconditional love point to accept or see, or, you know. So I get a lot of these people, spirit, they're either drawn to me or spirit brings them to me, that most other people would probably ignore, walk away, or would not even work with, you know. And these are the individuals that I find sometimes that come and connect with me, or that seek to have help. All of that disappears, and I find myself doing this work, especially in session, and I'm looking at this soul and sitting in front of me, or lying in the recliner when I'm doing hypnosis, whatever's going on, and I'm so overwhelmed with the love. I'm seeing, how can I love? How can my eyes be tearing up with love for this being that I only met today, that maybe emailed me a few days ago, you know? So I'm just like, how deep this love, you know, how can it come from even a seemingly total stranger sitting in front of me, somebody by all appearance, that if you were a regular human being were to walk in front of them, would probably grab their purse or be like, oh my God, I don't want to be in that energy, or I don't want to, or look at that, you know. And it's like, that's not the way it works. And those are the kind of people that I do find, you know, as well as, you know, all kinds of people that work with. But it was such a cool experience, and it's been a really cool experience to find within myself that there is such a love, like you said, that love, and the love. And I know you get this too, that love that loves for the sake of loving, because all that disappears. When you're in the presence of love, that's what's experienced. I don't care what that person looks like. I don't care what, if they're a little bit, you know, if their EQ is low, if they're emotionally, they're 12, or if they've got all these you know, things going on, that disappears. That doesn't matter. I see the perfection of love. I see the wholeness of this person, you know, in front of me, coming to me, you know, and it's kind of cool, and not to be all, you know, that it's all me. It's the essence of me that I have been willing to look at and accept and bring forth within my humanness. We all can do it. It goes back to remembering. I'm not special. I'm not greater. I'm not more divine than anybody else on this planet. The only difference between me and maybe some other people is that I remember. You know, I know that about myself. I remember those truths, and as well as you do. And that's why we are able to help others, because there's a part of us that know that it's a knowing. We remember, we know it as part of our truth. Where others, the only thing that might separate us is that knowing and that remembering. And so does
and I'm glad you brought that up, because I also, you know, remembering, and that how I remembered is, you know, by reading, studying, researching, you know, going through my meditations, and, you know, just having my conversations with the essence of God, and, you know, we're having little powwows. And let me tell you something, I've had some Mexican standoffs with him, and, you know, I'll go off on him going, what about that, and then he'll just take me to a whole nother level. And I went, oh
yeah, see,
it brings me like back to,
it does, and it's so fun and exciting.
He knows we're the human beingness of it, and we're so, and because I'm so deeply, you know, caring and loving, not only about human beings, but this planet that I live on. When I start to see things and I'm not understanding, I go to him. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Why are you know, why are we allowing this to happen? What part am I not connecting here?
That's right.
And then he'll just take me to this level to where I can't help but stop and go, oh, that makes
exactly
sense. Okay. All right. I feel you on that. I get it. I'm understanding, you know, but it's just, you know, going through that process and remembering and whatnot. Now, when I look at human beings, one is compassion.
Because the compassion is,
and granted, I've experienced many forms of abuse, but I look at that person, I probably don't even understand where your mindset is, and, you know, why you're going through this. I couldn't even, you know, like, imagine to a degree, but I wish you well. Like, I bless you. Things will get better for you. I'm always doing that whenever I meet somebody that, you know, and that's the way. And I just say, I love you.
Exactly.
You know, I don't have to say it out loud. As I'm walking by, I'm like, oh, bless you, you know, bless your heart, bless your soul. I can't imagine what got you where you're at, but I love you, and it will get better. You know, because I'm sending that love vibration to that person. I don't really have to talk to him or her.
Right. No, you don't have to, because energetically or consciously, that's how we change, you know, that's exactly how we, you know, we can give, that's how we can change the, you know, what's going to happen. And we can change, you know, how do you help situations or people when you hear catastrophes happening around the world or this or that, and it's like, well, we do it just the way you described. That's how we help. You know, we hold them in our vibrationally, in our consciousness. Everything's going to be okay. This is going to pass. You're still loved. You're safe, you know, because they're not feeling whatever's happening, whatever tragedy, whatever is going on around the, you know, on the opposite side of the world. The way that we can help them is through our consciousness and energy. They're not,
Right. And
they don't know that they can still feel safe. Or there's somebody else who's putting that energy, that consciousness behind them, that they're safe. Their needs are going to be met, that they're really okay, but we can do that energetically. We can do that through that higher consciousness of love and compassion. And it does work. Energy doesn't, we already know how energy works. Human energy. We know that there's nowhere it can't be. There's nothing it can't,
so what I would encourage the audience is become the greatest, best expression of your true, authentic self, whatever that is. How can you be the greatest expression of yourself for today? And do it day by day, moment by moment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Staying in the moment, because that's really where creation happens, is in the present.
You're generating, not just creating. You are generating.
There's always a generation of that energy coming from us, a thought, a feeling, of emotion.
So we just got, they were trying to do that in the late 60s, early 70s, love, peace and love.
That was a huge consciousness shift, a huge awakening for that time and that era, and what chains needed to be broken at that time. And I think that was a huge one, and it was beautiful. I think it was just amazing when you think about, what was going on and culturally and community and throughout our country and the world of what was going on, but especially in our country. And those people, those individuals made some huge breakthroughs, and it's cool because, even the ones, when we're, that you'll find that in situations like that, in order to be that love or that peace, some of them had to get it in groups. You had to riot, you had to step outside of that to bring that consciousness, that awareness back, all of it. Women, that's where we got a lot of the women were speaking up and breaking out of their molds and that they had been, put in. And it was just, it was fabulous.
Yeah, because women didn't have a vote back then. They didn't have a voice.
No, they were put into this, this script, this role that we were to play, and people got tired of it, and the men got tired of it with the wars, and people wanted peace, and people were like, "This is it. We've had enough." And that's probably there was a huge wave when people really came together for one thought. That there was a sense of one-mindedness there. There was large groups of people thinking and feeling the same way, but they were willing to make changes. They were willing to do things about it together. That was a big part of that shift, was because, when people's thinking or thought or idea of change starts to fit together or harmonize or come to the same place, that's when change really happens. That was a big one. Yeah.
But I noticed that, in times now passed by and how history keeps repeating itself. Yeah, I believe in, speaking your voice and peaceful riots. But, we got to get out of that old energy of having to have violence all the time. It doesn't, it's just feeding into the, history repeating itself and feeding into that cancer of that energy that keeps replaying itself.
Exactly.
I mean, we can all have a gathering and all talk as human beings to another human being and be able to express the way we feel, get a better understanding, and looking at it in a different perspective.
Absolutely. I mean, for instance, back then, the difference was when they for some of it, I feel, especially in the beginning, it was a different energy. The energy and the mindset behind they're taking to the streets of the rioting. That's why it was more calm in certain situations, and probably towards the beginning is the mind, the heart and the mind was in agreement. A lot of these people, these large groups of people, this was not about destruction. This was not coming of a place of hate, our own insecurities, fears, hates, angers, resentments, that kind of writing. That's what we were seeing occur in the more recent days. That's the kind of stuff we've been seeing, because it's not coming from, what's happening is that people are writing from their hurts, their pain, their own wounds, their own resentments and fears. So there's a difference. At that time, people were coming from their heart. They were saying, this has to change, and we're willing to come together with one mind and one heart. We're pretty damn close, and create those changes. The energy behind that was so different. What we have today is a bunch of hurt people, so cut off that we are all practically insane, and we're trying to riot and make changes with that. You're never going to make changes coming from pain and suffering, because what you're going to produce and what you're going to see is pain and suffering. Fix this. Come from a place of we're going to change this. We're going to change this because what we want with and from the idea of what it is that we want to see produced, what we want the effect to be. You can't, you're coming from a place of hurt and long stemming generational hurts. When we think about maybe other cultures or African Americans, and when we look at that whole scene, legends of hurt. So again, like we were talking about earlier, we gather together and we start to heal those hurts, and we say, you know what, we want change. And this is going to come from a desire, a heart's desire for real healing and change. Now, coming together like that and taking to the streets is going to, first of all, it's going to look totally different. And second of all, it's going to start to produce results, because it's not just taking to the streets. Now you got a whole bunch of people that are willing to come together from the same heart or same mind, and they're going to continue to go to any length. So they're not going to stop when the cameras are off of them. They're not going to stop when the groups stop rioting. They're going to follow through. They're going to make sure and stay together that these changes happen. They're going to see it through to the end.
I'm all for that.
And it depends, that's the difference. You can have large groups of disconnected ego people, and that's what's been going on, and that's why we're reaping the results of that mindset.
Over repeatedly, like it's Groundhog's Day when it comes to that.
Or you can get a large group of people that are coming from a different place, and that's very, very powerful, and big changes can occur that way too. And that's what we invite people to do, is to come together with the same, start to allow our minds and our hearts to fall generally into the same place. And then as we as a group, as large numbers of us kind of move together, we're talking, serious change can happen. Awesome change, what we really want to see. A lot of people talk about, but are unwilling to do it because, again, going back kind of in circles, is most people are unwilling to look at themselves. They're not willing to face, they're so afraid of facing themselves and what's going on inside. And it's like, the tiger you're holding by the tail is you.
Well, you're a hostage to your ego. You become a prisoner. And when you go through that change, the freedom and the liberation of really connecting to your true, authentic self, you could become whoever you want to be.
Exactly.
And it's like we're living other people's lives. Oh, we got to talk more about that on another Friday.
We're on a roll now. People are going to be coming on and listening to like 2-hour podcasts.
I know, right?
But it's fun.
I know. We could talk about this. This is like the kind of stuff I love to talk about, because I'm just talking about it. And I'm trying to get intuitive, feedback as well. Sometimes I don't get, I'm not seeking intuitive advice. I'm just getting intuitive feedback. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? Just to get a perspective on the spiritual side, honestly.
And I think that I do feel very strongly that next week's topic should be on that playfulness and that childlike aspect and mindset, and even that'll integrate even into, youth and children and the importance of that focus as well.
Okay. That's fine with me. So you all got to stay tuned for next Friday because it's going to be more good.
If we keep talking, we're going to talk next Friday's conversation now. Like, you don't have to wait till next Friday. We'll just do it all today. No.
Well, thanks, Mary, for joining. It's such a pleasure having you on Wake Up with KC.
It's awesome. And thank you for inviting me and having me. I just absolutely adore you, and I love these conversations.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Well, there you go. Look forward to next Friday. It's going to be me and Mary, spiritual talk and spiritual advice and some good insight, just good conversation. And hopefully it helps you think differently. And, together we can do things and make a difference and an impact. And it's time. So if you're ready, just join us every Friday, learn something. Join me on Wake Up with KC because I have other guests coming. And it's going to be interesting for sure. A wild ride. Get ready. Buckle up, Buttercup. It's going to get good.
Do you agree that, it's time that we all wake up and take responsibility, even for our ancestors that did not know any better?
Been waiting patiently to have this kind of conversation.